damage workman's compensation. This is the
18 inlands to
slipped through the cracks or something, because there's no signature on that first page from us. There is from Utah Local Governments Trust. So I'm just trying to figure it all out and see how it works.
I know they have a current one. I don't know why it didn't get in your packet.
Oh, and
oh, here he is. Oh, would you like to come on up?
Sure.
It might be easier to go to the podium since we have the table set up for our joint meeting. So we will go back to item Fire Chief Report and Fire Warden Report. Okay.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. So it's been fairly slow out in Thompson as far as fire and EMS go. We did have a car hit a cow not far from Thompson. They did transport that person to the hospital. I'm scheduled to take my big fire engine in for a safety inspection this weekend, and Brian and I were working on the liability and workers' comp insurance, renewing that. So we've got that in. So hopefully we'll be current and up to date soon. As far as the warden goes, as you probably know, there's been more stringent fire restrictions put into place since June 15th. No campfires whatsoever, no type of open fires, unless it's a propane gas that you can turn on and off. So that's in the BLM land, Forest Service, all unincorporated lands, state lands also. So
does that include the developed camp areas?
Even in developed camp areas, you can't have a fire. No fires. So, and I did attach all the agencies' restrictions with my packet. Local WUI is Wildland Urban Interface, and wildfires. On 6/11 we had a UTV catch on fire up on Hell's Revenge and caught one tree on fire. So actually the Moab Valley Fire Department went up there in their UTV and dealt with it. We went, but we couldn't get our big engines up there on Hell's Revenge, so we didn't go. As everyone knows, on 6/12 we had the Cinema Court fire here in the city. It was a big deal. Pretty much right off the bat we understood that this is going to be an expensive fire. We're going to need a lot of resources. So we did something that's called a delegation of authority. I worked with Rick Bailey and the fire chief, and that allowed us to bring in resources from all over the area and have the state pay for it, basically. So the resources that responded were, if you see on your sheet here, we had a total of actually 24 engines that showed up. We had Moab Valley with 7 engines and 2 command vehicles, 4 BLM engines, 2 from here, 2 from Monticello, my state engine and the Monticello engine. We had 1 U.S. Forest Service hand crew from Monticello, the Abajo crew, which is really good to have them because we had some really hazard trees and some big burning trees that need to come down, and they're expert enough to get those down on the ground. So it was good to have those. It made it safer for everybody. From out of the air, we actually had 7 volunteer fire departments respond to this over the 2 days. After the first shift, basically, Moab Fire Department worked so hard they're pretty much done. We need to bring in fresher resources because they had some smoke inhalation, heat exhaustion, and stuff like that. They did a great job, but we needed to have structure engines that next day to handle the structure fire part of it. We still had our federal and state resources on the wildland part of the fire, but we brought in structure engines from let's see, Blanding, East Carbon, Green River, LaSalle, Monticello, Huntington, and there's one other I can't think of right now. So we had a total of 24 engines on this fire, and we would have had a helicopter too if there was one available. Phil was asking for one, and I got with Moab Fire Center, and because of all the fires going on, Durango, Trail Mountain up north, and the Manti, and the time of day, there's no helicopters available. So we would have had a helicopter on that if possible. That's how bad it was. Any questions on the Cinema Court fire? Okay. There's just luckily no one got hurt or seriously injured on that one or killed. So the responding people, the law enforcement, EMS was there. Everyone was really a group effort on this one, so it was good to see that all come together. The other fire we had on the 14th was we had report of a smoke. Construction workers saw a lightning strike up on the loop road above Miners Basin, called it right in. We responded, our local resources. You could see it from town, so I guess there's some concern on Facebook starting to circulate and stuff like that. Oh, no, here goes the mountain, right? When we got there, we saw that it was about 10,000 feet, and there was no way in for our vehicles. So the Forest Service said full suppression. They're going to do what they have to do to put this thing out. So they immediately put 4 smoke jumpers, helitat crew, and 2 single engineer tankers. They're the smaller retardant dropping planes on it, and got it knocked out pretty quick. It only ended up being a quarter acre, but where it was a really bad location. If logs would have rolled out, then they could have started at the bottom and come back up. So good job for the Forest Service to do what they did. And the BLM does have extra engines in the area because of high fire danger. So it's good to know that we have some extra resources here right now. And that's about all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions about insurance. I don't know if you'll be able to answer. Jaylyn?
I feel like I did such a muddling job of vocalizing it last time. Basically, there's just a lot of papers in here with expiration dates of 2017. So I just wondered, are there more current documents? I know we need to renew the insurance.
Yeah, that's what we're renewing, and that's it expires in September. So yeah, we do have the new documents should be coming shortly. I would anticipate.
You don't have them?
Not on me, no.
I mean,
I can get them. I'll bring them in tomorrow if you want.
No, I see. Okay. We just.
Well, the current documents that show good to 2018 because they are all current.
Okay, we just got the wrong ones in our packet. It looks like.
Then, with that explanation, I move to approve insurance coverage for liability, property, auto, physical damage, and workers' compensation for the Thompson Springs Special Service Fire District, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Jaylyn Hawk, seconded by Rory Paxman. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to our general regular meeting, Tuesday, June.
You got a few more agenda items.
I do on Thompson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I thought you might ask for future considerations. Maybe not.
Well, he walked out. So, does anyone have future considerations? Okay. I entertain a motion to adjourn the Thompson Fire Special Service District meeting.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Did we have a second?
No, we didn't.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Greg Halliday, seconded by Jaylyn Hawks. Okay, now we will.
Can I switch out?
Yes. Okay, so that was the bottom. Couldn't have handled that one, by the way. It's the one I don't worry about. I have the hardest time with. Okay, I will call to order the Grand County Council regular meeting. Tuesday, June 19, 2018. Present, Greg Halliday, Jaylyn Hawks, Mary McGann, Rory Paxman, Patrick Trim, Ruth Dillon, and Diana Carroll. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mark Horwitz, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. we have minutes for March 20th and 26th. Do we have any discussion or corrections for those minutes? Did anybody find?
Well, yeah, the only discussion I have is on the 26th. It's got me listed as chair. And you'll probably want to sign that one. Other than that, I make a motion to approve minutes from March 20th, 2018 and March 26th, 2018.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Jen Ann Hawk, seconded by Greg Halliday. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes for March 20th and 26th? All in favor? Passes 5-0.
And then I move to postpone approval of the minutes from April 3rd, 2018, April 17th, May 1st, May 15th, May 16th, and June 5th, all from 2018.
Motion by Jen Ann Hawks,
Second.
second by Greg Halliday. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ratification of bills.
All right. Grant County bills to be approved for 6/19/2018. Total bills, $438,418.30. Total payroll, $226,422.56. Total bills and payroll, $664,840.86.
Motion by Rory Paxman, seconded by Patrick Trim. Any discussion? Yes.
Just a couple of curiosity questions on page 4. There are 3 charges to Cowboys and Indians trading. I'm wondering what that's for.
On page 4,
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy and Indian
About in the
Trading.
middle, $96 each.
Haley, Josh, and Landon.
Peace officers, uniform allowance.
Oh,
Uniform allowance.
really?
Nice.
And then on page 9, I'm wondering what the Peters Schofield fourth quarter clerk charges. What is Peter Schofield? Just curious.
On page 9.
That's that ongoing state assessed appeals that we have with, for property
Okay,
valuation.
that's all I have.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilman Halliday,
Aye.
Councilman Hawks,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGann, yes. Councilman Paxman,
Yes.
Councilman Trim.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. We are now to general council reports and future consideration. Greg Halliday.
Okay. A couple things. Attended the Grand County Transportation Special Service District meeting that was held on the 12th. We had used mineral royalty money to pave Murphy Lane. What was it, 1,300 feet on Murphy Lane? We put some, what was it, 2-inch?
It was closer to about an inch.
About an inch of asphalt? Okay, so we paved Murphy Lane from the base of the hill northward, 1,300 feet. And we are planning to use more of the mineral royalty money to chip seal Route 6 and 50, old Route 6 and 50 in Thompson, one end of town to the other, and then north on Seagull Canyon Road up to the old school. We're also looking at doing some chip sealing on Rocky Road and Plateau Road in this area. So that's going to cost about $775,000, and that will be from mineral lease funds that we get pretty much every month. Okay. Went up in Thompson Special Service District. That's the water board up there. Set in on that this last Thursday. Everything's going pretty good up there. They're getting in compliance with OSHA. They had an inspection, and there were some areas that they fell down on as far as OSHA was concerned, and they're making steps to correct that, posting warning notices about the chlorine that they have to inject into the water, because it's gaseous chlorine, and so that could pose health risks if it leaks out. So they're getting that taken care of, and they're getting some new 2-inch meters. State wants to know how much water is not being used. They're getting about 97 gallons a minute out of the springs they've got up there. A certain amount of that, well, most of it is used, but a certain amount goes into what's called the overflow. The state wants to know how much is going into the overflow for whatever their reefer is. And they're looking at doing some improvements to their backhoe, basically putting a thumb on, which is a minor thing, but it enables you to do a lot more with the backhoe. Other than that, everything is going good up there, and that's all I've done.
Thank you. Jalen?
Well, I have nothing to report. One of my meetings got canceled due to lack of a quorum, and the other meeting, I somehow had it pegged for Wednesday, so I emailed them Wednesday and told them I'm so sorry I couldn't be there, I was ill, and turned out the meeting was on Tuesday. So that was Travel Council Advisory Board. But I was ill Tuesday as well, so I couldn't have gone anyway. That's all I have to report.
We had a cleanup committee on Wednesday, June 7th. In attendance was Jared Weston Nons of Pacific Steel and Recycling, Joe Kingsley, and Councilman Wells, and myself. And we met to discuss the cleaning up of scrap metal in the area and in some of the yards that have excess cars and just large pieces of metal. Joe Kingsley has put a piece of container to collect the metal on his property on Soar No More. You know, that's the corner of Mill Creek and Holly Oak. So that's really exciting. So that will be happening. That was on, and then we had a Powerhouse Lane meeting on Tuesday the 12th, and we are applying for the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Grant to hire a facilitator to work on creating a plan for access to Mill Creek community. It's called Mill Creek Community Access Plan, to deal with the issues that we're having at Mill Creek, which are large and will involve a lot of different areas, from small fixes to a large plan to cover the whole issue. One thing that is happening is they're fixing the signage on the county portion of the Powerhouse Road. I guess the distance between the signs and such weren't to code, so all of the tickets that were given were thrown out. So they're fixing that, and they're also putting up tow-away at your own expense signs on the county and the city portion of the road. And they're talking about resurrecting some of the campaigns that we've had in the past, like Don't Bust the Crust. This kind of, we're not hearing anything about the water respect and protect campaigns. So while we're figuring out how we're going to solve the big issues, we're going to resurrect some of the campaigns. You know, we've had going for a while, and then kind of, you know how it happens, they boost and then they kind of fall. So that was there. On the same day, the Mexican consulate, Jose Borjan, was in town. The main thing I came out of that was the consulate's been here since 1911, and there are 280,000 persons of Mexican origin in Utah, and 1 in every 4 children in Utah are Latino. And Mexico is Utah's 4th largest export destination. It was a difficult meeting because of the Grand Center, and the noise of the air conditioner was so loud that I missed 80% of what was said. It was very difficult. But other than that, it was nice to have him here, and I think he spent a lot of time at the Multicultural Center. The Grand Conservation District awarded Youth Garden Project a grant and the Canyonlands Field Institute a grant, so that was good. And they wanted everybody to remember that the Colorado and Green River Comprehensive Plan meeting is July 27th from 5 to 7 at the library. Put it on your calendars. Cemetery Board, they are working on a really nice columbarium area. It's going to be very, very nice. People are going to really like it. That seems to be where people are going. It will be private with set shade and nice benches for people to enjoy. And it was my last meeting. I resigned from the cemetery board because my son, Brendan McGann, was hired. So Evan Clapper next meeting said he would take over, and I would take over his Tuesday job, and not me. And we will, and that's how we will handle it. But anyway, I was kind of sad. I worked hard on that board, so it's kind of sad to say goodbye to it. Plus, it's a short meeting, usually only an hour. The Solid Waste Special District, we are, from now on, I know, that's terrible. Hello? I don't know where the buzz is coming from. I don't know, but it's not good.
Let's make sure our phones are away from our taxi.
Maybe that's what it is. At the Solid Waste Special Board meeting, district meeting, it wasn't a special meeting, it was a regular one. We are working on figuring out ways to take credit cards at Moab Landfill and at the Recycle Center. The Recycle Center will no longer be accepting plastics 3 through 7. Oh, thank you, Chris. And no longer accept plastic. Did you do something, or was it just a miracle? Magic. We will no longer be accepting plastic number 2 that's colored. We'll only be taking all of plastic number 1 and 2s that are not colored. We will put up a trash receptacle at the Recycle Center for people who come up and aren't aware that this is the case, so that they can dispose of the recycled material we no longer are going to be able to take. We're not accepting mixed paper. We're only accepting office paper, and we're no longer accepting newsprint. We are accepting glass, and it is being repurposed, so it's really important to recycle it, but you won't have to separate it anymore. You can put it in one bin. They're looking at operating hours to only being open on Saturday till 12:30, and perhaps closing at least one day a month on Wednesday to catch up. This is all done. We're doing these because we are unable to get a full staff. We have been operating with 1 or 2 less staff members. We're like the rest of the county and city. We can't get employees, and it's causing safety issues at Klondike and Moab landfill. So we thought the only place that we could cut back on work and time was to stop taking any recycle materials that weren't making us money. So that is the reasoning behind it, and we will be getting out that information to the public. So I've been pretty busy in the last 2 weeks. So that's what's gone on. Oh, and then we will report, we had a stakeholders meeting for the fire, Cinema Court fire on Monday, but I'm going to report on that at the joint county council meeting, joint city council meeting. Thank you. Roy? Chair.
On that, Colorado River, you said the 27th of July, it's the 27th of June.
Okay, 27th of June. Boy, I read July. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes.
On recycling, are you gonna phrase it that these are the things we're gonna take? So people know exactly what
Yes.
they have to take?
Yeah, what we will be taking is corrugated cardboard, office paper white, plastic number 1 and plastic number 2 that aren't colored, and glass. We won't be taking any other of the products that we have taken in the past. But yes, that will be advertised, and it'll take a good month or so to get the public trained. Good point. Yes, Roy?
I don't have anything.
I just got that.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is annoying. We have council elected official reports. Do we have anybody? No? Council administrator reports?
Yes, they have one special report. I want to make a presentation. It's our town council stuff. Why don't you come all the way up?
Chris, do you want to go see if Matt's in his office?
You all heard about this, it was already in the paper with photos and all, but I want to just show, Chris, you want to see that? So, oh, let me see. They're very proud. What they are showing off
Major
are the
awards!
prestigious,
Major awards!
Michelin Green Guides Awards. These actually are French awards, are they not? So this was the chief editor from which is International Powwow, big convention. So you received these awards back on May 23rd, and this is each of them has been 3 stars, which shows the highest ratings, and that's for recommended points of interest. And those, one is for Arches National Park, and one is for Penland National Park. So by recommending points of interest, rather than this is something like Arches National Park gives you, so these are called, sure I'm saying it right, the guide there. It's the prestigious Michelin Green Guide of France. Great.
They have a red guide for restaurants, but they have a green guide for must-see, avoid, but you got the stars, so there'll be more French for they were actually in town, and the chief editor dined at one of our local restaurants, and was very impressed, and well,
Congratulations to you, your staff,
as a national park service, we're all in the spring now.
anything else, anything further?
It's all done.
This happened last meeting too, so.
Working out the bugs.
We can go back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, there are no department reports or agency reports. Citizens to be heard. This is the portion of the meeting where if citizens have something to say that is not on the agenda, they can speak. If you want to speak to an item that's on the agenda, please fill out this form that's next to the door and give it to Diana or Ruth, and they will pass it to me. Are there any citizens to be heard? There are no presentation. Okay, we are to general business and action item I. Authorizing submission of a matching required grant application to the State Office of Tourism for a cooperative marketing project in 2019. Elaine Geiser. Gisler.
Mary, before
Gisler.
I move on to this request, the posters that you were talking about, the Don't Bust the Cross, the Park Service has a new one, and we're actually pulling that, the Got Water, and any others that we're resurrecting. You were talking about it. We're putting together a Moab outdoor recreation guide to educate visitors, and those posters will be part of what we're putting together. So before your organization, don't do anything until we know what you're going to do, because we're working on refreshing those.
I think the first thing we were going to do was talk to you. That just hasn't happened yet.
We all have the same poster. Okay.
That was my job, was to come to your office and talk to you about it.
All right,
So
we're on the same
I
page.
will do that.
Okay, sounds good. This request is an annual request to the state of tourism office. They are allocated funds. So what this is authorizing submission of a matching required grant application to the State Office of Tourism for a co-op marketing projection for 2019. And this grant will not impact the 2019 budget, but will require a commitment of $250,000 matching funds from the Travel Council advertising budget if this gets approved. So the recommendation is that I move to approve the authorization of the Travel Council to move forward with the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op Marketing Grant application in the amount of $250,000, and then $250,000 would then be matching from the Travel Council in the 2019 advertising budget, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents. This is an annual request that all counties in Utah can approach the co-op board for, and not only the counties, but individuals with that are organizations who are looking for matching funds. So just the background, the Utah Office of Tourism annually provides a co-op marketing grant process that the Travel Council is eligible to apply for matching funds for advertising projects that encourage visitation to Moab, Grand County, and Utah from outside of the state. So the funds that we would use, which are targeted towards Southern California, and that's where we're targeting this year. This cooperative marketing fund by the state was established in 2005 and has successfully funded over 600 applications totaling over $30 million to local nonprofit tourism organizations, extending the state's brand to 60,000 because of the co-op, shared co-op. So the funds allocated are established by the Tourism Marketing Performance Funds, and the allocation for this funding comes from the governor's budget. And I actually am on the committee to approve funding of all these funding requests, not ours, of course. Darn it. But everyone else's. So this year we have over $2 million that they'll be allocating for out-of-state marketing. And the cap is $275,000. I'm asking for $250,000. Not that we'll get all of our requests. I'm in the process of submitting and really providing a lot of statistical information to back up my ask. But this does help us to advertise in Southern California because it's very expensive to advertise in Los Angeles and San Diego. And what I'm hoping this will do, as I consider that a drive market for us, that if the people leaving Southern California drive over, they can stay longer if they're in their own vehicles, which will mean extra nights lodging, and be able to enjoy more outdoor activities. And not only that, it'll also help the lower part of southern Utah, all of those other parks and cities, as people are traveling through to come over here. So in the 3 years I've been here at the Travel Council, I've secured over $700,000 from the state for our advertising efforts. So again, there's no guarantee that they'll approve this request. They'll review the information I'm sending them, the statistics to back it up. But just to give you an idea that we are advertising in Southern California right now, and our first quarter results, our average ticket price from the Southern California area of San Diego, Los Angeles, and Bakersfield is up 29%, and our average sales amount is up 41%. So we know that this advertising is working. So not only are we spending the money to advertise there, but we also pretty much get a one-to-one free advertising when it comes to any television that we're doing or any billboards or radio, because we can negotiate better rates. So, and I've got letters of support from a couple of business owners, significant business owners in our community, and from the Chamber of Commerce president, and let's see, who else?
Well, thank you.
And the board, my board president.
Okay, thank you. I think...
or chair, excuse me.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the submission of a match required grant application to the State Office of Tourism Co-op Marketing Project in the amount of $250,000. $250,000 would then be matching from the Travel Council 2019 advertising budget, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Patrick Trim. Do I have a second? Seconded by Rory Paxman. Any further discussion? Yes.
Questions?
Yes.
And I might know this had I been able to make it to Travel Council. So you being on the review committee, you would then know that they must not frown on letters that are basic duplicates of each other. I mean, they all look like the same letter to me. And I was just curious about that.
That I don't know, because I've not been on the committee before, but...
You'll have to see how it goes,
okay,
because they are almost verbatim.
Okay.
And then the other thing is this letter from the council at the end, is that considered an associated document?
It is.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? Motion passes. Okay, motion passes 5-0 with Rory Paxman recusing himself. Curtis Wells has joined us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Approving recommendation for on-call contract engineering services. Zachariah.
Okay, so as some of you know, it's been a very long time since the county has gone out to solicit proposals or qualifications for our on-call contract engineering services. And so it's part of good governance and transparency and making sure that the county is getting the best service possible. We decided to announce a request for qualifications earlier this year to solicit proposals or statements of qualification from engineering firms who have the capacity and the skills and the experience to provide engineering services to the county. 5 firms responded to that request for qualifications. The RFQ review committee identified 3 firms of those 5 that it wanted to interview in person. 2 firms responded to that request for interviews, and so we went ahead and spent about an hour and a half, if not more, with each of the 2 firms. Covered an extensive range of questions revolving around engineering services to the county. Following that, the review committee met and reached consensus on the recommendation it wanted to provide to the county council. And that recommendation is actually to utilize both firms for on-call engineering services. We're not recommending a definitive split of services to be provided by each firm, although we have a general idea of what we'd like to utilize each firm for, but we don't want to preclude the possibility that the other firm might provide that service or vice versa. One of the distinct advantages of going this route is that we have 2 firms that can provide competitive bids for upcoming projects, and we think that improves the quality of service and the cost efficiency for the county, and that also helps us remain efficient in terms of contracting with one of the firms without having to go through the purchasing policy bid announcement and competitive bid process for projects. I'd just like to note that through this process, I think those of us that have participated in the review and the interviews have learned quite a bit about the engineering firms that they're recommending. And I think that there are many engineering services that the county can utilize that it is not currently utilizing. And so, once the county council makes a decision on how to go forward, what we would like to do is start to take some steps to help inform county departments of what's available and what's out there, and to make sure that we're maximizing that relationship with our engineering contractors. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Ruth Dillon and Jeff Whitney are also here. Bill Jackson's here as well. So all of us were part of the review committee, and any of us could answer questions as well.
Do we have any questions? Yes,
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve both Horrocks Engineering and Jones DeMille Engineering as Grant County's on-call contract engineers, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Rory Paxman, seconded by Jaylen Hawks. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. So when you have on-call contract engineers and they do a project, do they bill us per project?
Yeah, so there is no amount of money that's guaranteed to either firm. It's on a per project basis or an hourly basis, we in the RFQ it says that even once the council makes this decision to go forward with these firms, that there's a negotiation period. So following today's action by the council, we will need to finalize what those contracts look like, and so I can come back to you with billing rates and that sort of thing if you'd like to see that. Otherwise, we can handle that administratively.
Sure.
Yes.
Did you have another?
No.
Well, that was actually going to be my question. Do we want to approve this without knowing exactly what these costs are? Or do we want to go ahead and approve the principal and then look at the costs later?
I want to approve it, and I may be somewhat naive of me, but I do have full confidence that you and your team are going to negotiate appropriately. That's just my thought.
I can also follow up with to that question with the following, that as I said, we've learned quite a bit through this process about what we're utilizing versus what's possible, and from the statements of qualification that have been submitted, we've also learned a little bit about about what we could do to increase the clarity of expectations that the county has for those engineering services, and we'll be developing some documents and checklists and things like that to just improve the engineering services we get here. So that's going to be a component of the final contract. We'd like to include some of those documents in the agreement.
I would like to actually see the final contract. I mean, I'm fine approving that.
So you'll have to sign anyway, so we don't have authority administratively to
As long as
execute
we see
those.
the final contract, I'm fine.
Any further discussions or questions? Okay, call for a vote. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Zachariah. I think we are now on approving proposed agreement for employee services between Active Reentry and Grand County pending legal review.
Hi,
Verlene.
Verlene Striblin from the Grant Center.
And you know who I am. So.
Okay, since 2013, the position of facility coordinator has been commingled with the Active Reentry to have her as a full-time position, but with their funding and the way they've changed state funding, they're going to cut that part of it and just go to the 16 hours per pay period, so it'll only be $8,500 a year. And then she could still be the long-term care ombudsman, so that contract would come through the county. And the long-term ombudsman goes over to the care center when they need an advocate for the residents. And then Chris said the last money that we would need for that position to keep her full-time could come from the TRCC money, because we are a convention center, and that's what she does, the rentals for that. And then to be full-time, have her do get volunteers for rides for seniors and do handyman things and friendly visitors for those that are homebound.
Questions? Yes. Ms. Ruhl?
Move to approve the attached agreement titled Agreement for Employee Services, Active Reentry, and Grant County through June 30th, 2019, as well as an unbudgeted increase to the Senior Center's 2018 budget of approximately $3,850 to be covered by the TRCC fund, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Curtis Wells, seconded by Patrick Trim. Any further discussion? Yes.
How many hours did Active Reentry cover prior to that?
19 hours a week.
So they're just giving her 3 less?
Yeah, I mean, because they even cut their, they had a satellite office in Vernal, and they've cut it back to the price employees will go up and cover up there when they need it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, this has been sent to legal review, but we didn't hear back.
Not yet.
So usually government to government, we don't usually get much back. They usually go with it, but I just wanted to point that out. We don't have legal review.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Passes 6-0. Thank you. We are now to approving proposed job description amendment of the Grant Center Facility Coordinator Independent Living Assistance Technology Technician position to include volunteer recruitment and coordination. Yes.
I move to approve the proposed job description amendments of the Grant County Center Facility Coordinator and Independent Living Assistive Technology Technician position to include volunteer recruitment and coordination, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, approving proposed job description and on unbudgeted funding for 2 new full-time landside operation technician positions at Canyon Landsfield Airport.
Okay, this is a follow-up from last council meeting's discussion regarding the cleaning possibilities for the terminal and for the facilities out there. And instead of pursuing a contracted cleaning entity, it's recommended to go for positions that could be cross-utilized and used for more tasks out at the airport and some of the stuff we want to expand to, specifically parking and shuttle vehicle, taxi vehicle registration, and keeping that in line because of all of those coming and going. What this is a new position, and this fiscal impact represents 6 months of those positions, including benefits. That's for the estimated cost of 6 months of that new position with benefits, with a 40% estimated benefit.
I have a question. What hourly rate does that represent, Joe? You know,
I can't remember exactly. It's about 16 and change.
Because with benefits, that just seems a little low.
Well, again, it's only 6 months,
Right.
so. But do you know what it is off the top of grade 10, step 1? What's the salary?
The chart is in the packet.
Charts in the packet. Yeah, I think I remember looking at it. It was highlighted.
Well, it's the figure times 2, right?
Correct. And these would be positions because the airport has to operate 365 days a year. They would be hired with working weekends, working holidays.
Is it around like 30% for pennies?
That number is calculated off of 40%.
Any further questions? Yes, Curtis?
I move to approve the proposed job description. Well, hold on. We need to determine where we're going to fund these from. What's the recommendation? Just from fund balance or what?
It can come from TRCC. In the past, we've also used TRC money for the airport.
Yeah.
TRCC is actually TRCCNA, which stands for airports. And since you raised that this year, we'll probably pull in more than we budgeted. We're about to see a bit stronger growth than we predicted, at least during the spring. It got hot, so it's kind of hard to tell at this point how we close the year, but I think we'll be probably over budget on TRCC.
Yeah.
That's where I'd probably say those best bet.
Okay, so I move to approve the proposed job description and funding from TRCC for 2 new landslide operations technician staff positions at Canyon Landsfield grade 10.
Motion by Curtis Wells. Seconded by Greg Halliday. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. We are now on N. Reclassifying of 1 airport operations specialist position to ARP airport operation manager and approving associated job description and unbudgeted funding. Judd.
This position would be utilizing, not adding additional, but taking one of the operation specialists that we have currently and putting them more in a leadership type position. It would help better with succession aspects of the airport, and it will hopefully help free up a little bit of my time. But it basically takes, instead of everyone being equal, basically being able to have more delegation and just a little bit of better organization amongst the staff. while it would be put out to all of those that are at the 3 people that are at the operations specialist position, that number reflects the estimated cost for 6.5 months, reflects the person with the longest duration. I have one person who's been there for 3.5 years, one who's been there for 2 months, and one who's been there for a week in those positions. So that cost reflects, it would obviously look at all of them, but that reflects the person with the highest duration. That's a couple of steps up in the grade system.
Again, it will come from TRCC. TRCC again? We're going to max it out already?
Well, I mean,
For this year, this number is 3472.
yeah, so, I mean, none of this came past my desk, and so I never checked it against my projections. So if, if the money's there, then TRCC would be the most appropriate place to get it. But if not, then the general fund or maybe TRT also. TRT isn't necessarily specifically intended for airports, but we have used it in the past for airports.
Okay. Is that? Okay.
I move to approve funding from TRCC-A, pending accounting budget officer review for reclassifying one airport operations specialist, grade 13, to airport operations manager, grade, I'm sorry, I better do the slashes. I move to approve funding from TRCC-A, pending budget officer review, for reclassifying one ARF, airport operations specialist, grade 13, to ARF/airport operations manager, grade 15, at Canyonlands Field, and move to approve proposed job description and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second.
Motion by Jen and Hawk, seconded by Curtis Wells. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Motion passes 6-0. We are now on approving the proposed lease between Grand County and Joe Downer through December 31st, 2018 for establishment of a food truck trailer at Canyonlands Field Airport. John.
Okay, the reason there's not a lease attached and wanted to discuss this one is that Mr. Downard had approached wanting to establish a food truck at the airport and wanting to do a long-term lease. When it came up for discussion at the airport board, it led into an extended discussion that we've come to a point where instead of excited that businesses want to be out there, we're getting competition for multiple types of businesses. And that led to a question of how do you do it at other places, which raised the suggestion of RFPs. So at other places, if there's spot for food, an RFP is put out, and then see what you get. With this particular type of a food truck, 3 different people over the last 6 months have approached me with the discussion of a food truck out at the airport. No one had ever taken any action, except for Mr. Downer. So what like I said, what he had requested was a multi-year lease, as the other businesses have out there, but the board wanted to consider the possibilities of an RFP, so they recommended giving him a lease to set up a food truck for just this year, and then put out an RFP at the beginning of the year for any potential future food truck type vendors, because we really don't have the space to have a lot of them out there. Where this would basically be going is in the parking lot. If you out at the airport, there's the new handicap parking spaces, there's power and water right behind those, that you would be able to set up a food vendor. So where the physical impact comes from is a definite consideration of the cost. This would be a concessionary lease agreement where there's a minimum rate. It's the same thing that vending machines have, that the car rentals have. There's a kind of a convenience store that's going to be installed that a contract was approved by the council for. All of those are a concessionary lease agreement such that it's the greater value of the minimum number of the square footage rate or 10% of gross sales, whichever is the greater value. With the minimum of $19.50 for the 6-month period, that reflects a rate of $3.25 per square foot for 100 square feet. That's the multi-year rate. However, with a short-term, less than 2-year rate, it's $4.25 per square foot, or $25.50. What should this contract state? Because the individual is looking for long-term, we're saying short-term, and I think going out for an RFP has the potential for being beneficial for the county, but this person will also have to make a pretty good investment to set up shop, build a food cart.
Well, something that I think should be considered by this body is the Southeastern Utah Association of Governments approved some financing, I believe, for this applicant, to start this venture. And so, by nature, it is of interest of this county and of the AOG for this venture to succeed. And so, the fact that they've shown some persistence and urgency, I really like, and I'm not opposed to a longer term, agreement. I would like to see, I would like to promote some stability and certainty for them with this startup venture, and since, the AOG is invested in this venture, I think for them to have to worry about their contract at the end of their first year is, it's not something that I'd like to add onto their plate with the additional pressure of a new business. I'd be interested in a longer term agreement personally. That's my thoughts.
I'm sorry I missed airport board, but I just wondered how this will all work with the electricity, water, and sewer.
With the electricity, as with all airport terminal tenants, it says $19.50 plus utilities. So there never has been any electrical fee associated with airport tenants. All of the private hangars have private meters. All of those in the terminal, in essence, get free electricity. However, they pay a water and sewage fee and garbage fee. The garbage fee is 1 cent per square foot per month, so $10 a month for 100 square feet of office space, and then the water and sewage is about $43. It's the base rate set by, we just have traditionally used the base rate set by Grand County Water Sewage District for those fees. There's never has been something specifically isolated for power. And it's one where I don't think that's out of line to address that in the future is power usage. However, power itself has not been incorporated. This particular location would draw power off of the panel out of the terminal, and then it would be tapping into the water system of the airport as well. Because out there we we drill and get our own water out of a well, treat it, distribute it, and then also deal with the.
And so how will the sewage be taken care of?
There wouldn't be brown water because it's a standalone system. So sewage could either be, we have the option of either doing a direct pour into access ports in the septic system, or we could dig and tie directly into piping. It's actually where this location is about 5 feet from our main sewage line before it goes into a septic system. So we could also tie in a septic line output directly from this location.
I move to approve the proposed lease between Grand County and Joe Downard through December 31st, 2020 for establishment of a food truck trailer at Kanelands Field and authorize the chair to sign associated documents.
And that would be 6 months shorter than the normal lease at the airport. Normal leases set up are 3-year leases.
I'll second it.
Motion by Curtis Wells, seconded by Patrick Trim. Any further
I
discussion?
have one other question, or one question. Are they just gonna get their food outside, Judd, and eat it in the terminal? Is there gonna be seats set up, and how's that all gonna look there?
It would be getting food outside and taking it elsewhere. Either in the terminal, most often if the weather's nice, people are sitting underneath the trees that are outside of the terminal. We did have a food cart during our grand opening. They actually had brought out some picnic tables, which was kind of actually worked well. I might look at that for next year's budget to buy some picnic tables to put outside underneath there. And then I'm sure the airport staff would, of all the different businesses out there, would probably just go wherever would be convenient for them.
Yes.
So I was at that airport board meeting. It was a great meeting. And I appreciate Joe Downard's initiative and persistence, like Councilman Wells. But if I were a vendor, knowing that there's limited space to tie up that space until 2020, I would feel like it wasn't quite fair that I didn't get an opportunity to apply. And we do have more than one food truck vendor in the area. So perhaps it was a little premature to have applied for a loan from AOG, and it may have been a little premature to approve the loan on the part of AOG before he had a contract in hand. And so I would feel much better about, can I make a substitute motion at this point? I would make a substitute motion to approve the proposed lease between Grand County and Joe Downard through December 31st, 2018 for the establishment of a food truck trailer at Canyonlands Field, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Greg Halliday.
Comment.
Comment.
So I think it's a bit of a stretch to assume that just because they were approved for financing for a food truck, that this is the only location for the food truck, and that's getting into their business a little too much. A lot of the other counties in the AOG, they do receive a lot of these financing opportunities for small business. So I was really excited to be able to utilize this opportunity for a local business, which is something that I think we need to be doing more of through the resources of the AOG. And again, I was proud and happy to get this one through. So I think the point that I'm making stands, and that it's in the best interest of this body to see that this business succeeds. It's in the best interest of the AOG to see that this business succeeds. And I think a 1-year lease on a startup venture, you know, considering the points that Judge just made, that this is, my motion is 6 months shorter than what the standard lease is at the airport. There's plenty of precedent for it. If, you know, in the free market, if other vendors are interested in participating in these things, they have the ability to. These folks have shown the initiative. I would like to have some security for them while they're getting this venture going, and see that they can successfully pay back the money and the interest to the AOG. So I support the original motion.
I would like to make a comment. Setting on the AOG meetings for a brief period of time, it was obvious that Grand County wasn't getting as much of the funding as others. And I'm really excited that we are finally getting some of those grants and funds that we had not been as privy to as in the past.
And I'll make one more comment. Well, go ahead.
I just have one quick thing. Judd, I just want to make sure that if we decide to do something with the parking lot, that in the future that it'll be, we're in the contract where they have to move it so we can.
We
do
could
what we're doing.
definitely address that within a contract, that the expansion of the airport would take precedence. We actually, on a much grander scale, we had to address that with the terminal expansion by building a $60,000 storage garage, because it was in their contract that we were allowed to move it. Now with the food truck, that's a lot easier of finding a new place to park it, because we do have spots where if we get creative, we could get spaces out there for probably even 2 or 3 vendors if we got a little creative in that same general area. But we could definitely make sure that that would be included, that future growth of the airport. And every contract has had that. We've only exercised it once outside with terms of relocating an entire storage garage and building a completely new one. That old one ended up out at the arena, as well as when we rebuilt the terminal, having to basically build the new office space for all of the tenants that were in there, specifically car rental companies, FBOs, airlines, helicopter. All of those had to be adjusted at our cost with the remodel, because it was in their contract. We can move you. It's just, we're not going to make you pay to establish a office space and then tear it down and then have to pay to build it again in another place.
How do you feel? Which would you prefer, to have the contract end in 2000 and at the end of this year, or would you like to see it extended, or do you have a preference?
I think both have their merits. I think it was one where we don't have a second person sitting there and pounding at the door saying, I wanted a food truck, and they jumped on it. This is someone who, like I said, multiple people have said, ooh, it'd be great to have a food truck out here. And they've been saying that since 2010. This person actually stepped up and said, I'm willing to sign a contract to put a food truck out there. And I think that does say something about, I mean, all of us want, hey, here's something that we think we can make money at, but who goes out and actually does it? I think there's something to be said of actually stepping up and moving forward with it. On the flip side, I think an RFP for some of these services could be beneficial. I mean, it's one where I had Hertz Rent-A-Car give me a call and say, hey, we are possibly interested in coming to Moab. That'd be great. We don't have space for them right now. We had space for 2 car rental companies, and one is a local company and one's another local company, but a national brand. Part of their original contracts said we have to move you, but where do we address that? Should we have put out an RFP when those 2 contracts are up? Is one of those long-running discussions.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Judd, if you got another food truck that wants to come in after this one to sign under lease, for example, you could be creative and have a space for them.
Yes.
So you're not limiting somebody else from coming in.
We're not. We have one spot that works incredibly well and easy with existing resources, but we can be creative.
Okay. With that,
Okay, we have any further discussions?
Yeah, let me just say one more thing. I'm excited too to have these grants coming to Grand County. But that grant for this local business is not contingent upon us giving a contract till the end of 2020. And since there is extra space, and theoretically people aren't banging down your doors, but might have given the opportunity. I mean, from my perspective, yeah, it's great that this small business had the initiative to knock down your door and say, I want a contract. But on the other hand, some people want to, and I'm not saying they didn't play by the rules, they just pushed the rules closer to themselves, and other people might have thought, well, okay, I'll wait till an RFP comes out and then I will apply. I'm not saying that would happen, but what I am saying is I see no harm in doing this, respecting what the airport board discussion led to, which was give him a contract to the end of 2018 and then open it up for RFPs. Meanwhile, that could be going out anytime soon so that he would have some more assurance when he responds to that RFP, because it would begin January 1, right? So
Did the question?
Yes.
Did the airport board, when they had the discussion of the length of the lease, was the financing that's made this possible through the AOG mentioned?
No.
So.
No, this is the first I've heard of
With all due
it.
respect, I think that's pertinent. Talking about initiative and those things are great, and we appreciate and respect those. But we can't go to boards like this and say, we never get fed, feed us, and then they finally feed us and we don't protect our investment. It's that simple, folks. And call for a vote, please, Madam Chair.
Any further? Okay, vote for the substitute motion to approve the lease through December 31st, 2018. All in favor?
Through 2018?
No.
Yeah, that's the substitute
That's the
motion.
substitute motion. We have to do the
Sorry,
substitute first.
no vote.
Okay, all in favor of the 2018? Motion fails. 1 for and 5. All opposed? Okay. All in favor of the original motion to approve through December 31st, 2020? 5 in favor? Opposed? 1. Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just for clarification, it is December 31st, 2020.
2020.
Okay, thank you.
Jalen, thanks for going to that meeting for me too.
Huh.
That was short notice. Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, our next agenda item is approving proposed scope of work for request for proposals for forecasted needs analysis for staffing, operational space, and interlocal efficiencies. Chris Baird, Budget Officer.
So this is as a result of one of the directives that the Budget Advisory Board received from the council. And so it's been drafted using just the county standard RFP template. And in the scope of work, that's the body that really you want to be looking at. I've drafted a forecasted staffing needs assessment, forecasted operational space needs assessment, because those two things kind of go hand in hand. And then also, I believe that the council was interested in an interlocal efficiency assessment, which would be looking at unnecessary duplication of services between various government entities in the region. Do you have any questions about this?
Looks like a lot of work. Any questions? I'd entertain a motion. Jaylen?
I make the motion to approve the Grand County request for proposals for forecasted needs analysis for staffing, operational space, and interlocal efficiency, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents. Do we need to decide on dates first, or is that later?
Well, the dates will depend on when it's approved, and so you can just maybe make a part of your motion that we fill the dates in.
Okay, and yeah, put that in my motion.
And the dates will be filled in. Did I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, motion by Jaylen Hawks, seconded by Patrick Trim. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now on approving designated county delegate for participation in the election of National Association of Counties Officers Policy for NACO. When I read through this, we've never done this in the past that I remember. Did anyone remember us ever filling out this form?
I think I have a response to that. We have to be a registered attendee of NACO, and I don't recall a time in 10 years where anyone has attended other than the part that Curtis has done. So I think that's perhaps why you haven't seen that.
Oh, okay. And from what I see right at this point, and I read through it, but I got a little, wasn't quite sure. It doesn't look like at this point that we are voting for anyone. We're voting to be able to vote. Is that correct? Or did I misinterpret it? Did you guys read it? Did you read it?
Yeah, it's credentializing, I guess, is the way I understand it.
Is that kind of like you're saying we are going to participate in the upcoming election?
Yeah.
That's all it is, right?
That's my understanding.
Because I read it a couple times and I could not find any candidates. I'm going, what is this? So it's just to approve.
They're
Okay.
electing a second vice president of the National Association in Nashville. So that's the election.
And so then we fill this out and send it in to them to participate in that final. Okay, does everyone, yes?
Well, there is
I think we do need to delegate to designate.
We do?
I think so. In the frequently asked
The green paper?
questions, there's a question, what is a voting delegate? And it talks about what one is. A delegate must have a paid registration to the conference.
Yeah, so we need to
Can you go into that, Kurt?
Yeah, we need to assign a county delegate to vote on the county's behalf on this election. That's the way I understand it. There's 4 candidates.
So this would be, I sometimes just think, so this would be, we're voting to have a delegate.
Yes.
That's what we're voting.
And also, if you look at the voting form that needs to be turned in and signed by the county council chair, there's a request to fill in who is the designated county delegate.
Yeah.
Yes, Jaylyn.
I move to approve Curtis Wells as the National Association of Counties, as the delegate for Grand County to vote at the National Association of Counties Conference in Nashville, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Do we have a second? Rory Paxman. Any further discussion? All in favor? All in favor? I didn't see hands. Okay. All opposed? Motion passes 5-1. Mary McGann opposed. R is adopting proposed resolution approving the filing of cross appeals to the 2018 appeals filed by taxpayers subject to central assessment. Diana Carroll.
Just a quick question. On the previous item, there was a slot for a county alternate. Are you attending the conference, Mary?
That's in,
That's next month.
I don't know. I never,
Well, the reason I bring that up is I'm gonna be there anyways for the WIR board, so if you are interested in going, we can bring that back next meeting and you can be the delegate and I'll be the alternate. Because we didn't fill in the alternate slot with that motion, so.
Well, except it has to be turned in by the 29th of this month, and we'll be meeting again.
Oh, that's it? Okay. Just a thought.
Bring it back to the table.
you can bring it back to the table.
Yeah,
But,
If you're going.
yeah,
if that's
I don't
something
know
you're
if,
interested in.
what's the dates?
July 13th, I think through the 16th. July 13th through the 16th. So you have to book your trip pretty quick.
It's on our calendar.
I'm happy to.
13th through the
16th.
so it's a weekend, and it's,
To the
forgot where
Monday.
it was,
So
Friday.
maybe, can we bring it back and
after,
make a new motion that gives us some flexibility then? If she decides to put her trip.
When you say bring it back, are you
Bring it
talking about,
back to the table.
or just
At
make a
this meeting?
motion
Yeah.
that
I think
we
so.
have an alternate, let's just put an alternate.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, and I'd be an alternate.
So moved.
you're an alternate delegate, is that what? So is, I mean, is the council,
I'll second it. Okay, all in favor? Passes 6-0. Okay, now I'm lost. Okay, we're on R, thank you. R, Diana.
Just one second.
Approving proposed resolution, approving the filing of cross appeals to 2018 appeals filed by taxpayers subject to central assessment. Diana Carroll.
So this is an action that we need to do in order to be a part of the centrally assessed appeal process. There's one appeal filed so far with the state, so I've asked you to include all other appeals because they anticipate more to be filed, but in order to get on board with this Pacific Core appeal, we need to adopt this resolution, but it will also include any other appeals that have gone to the state. What the cross appeal, or what the cross appeals does for us is we get to share the legal fees for the state appeals process goes through. That was the bill, Jalen, that you questioned in the payment approval. That is the attorney that the group is using, and Andrew has also reviewed this, and he approves that attorney to be used.
Entertain a motion, or is there questions? Jalen?
I'll make a motion. I move to adopt the proposed resolution approving the filing of cross appeals to 2018 appeals filed by taxpayers, subject to central assessment, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jalen, seconded by Patrick Trim. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed, none. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
RS, approving proposed, you wanted to postpone that, right?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to respond pretty quick, but there's still an investigation and asbestos issues.
And I think maybe even meeting with the people to see where their motions are, would be a better idea.
So motion to postpone that item.
Without a date.
say what the item is, so
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry,
audience?
approving proposed letter of two families who experienced loss as a result of the recent fires. Councilman Wells, and the decision is to postpone indefinitely, or, yeah, indefinitely. We might do something different.
Second.
All in favor? Postponement? T, approving proposed resolutions to respect our neighbors' rights and rules of law regarding the use of legal fireworks. Councilman McGann?
Motion to approve.
Yes, and I would like to thank a citizen for stepping forward and assisting. Mark, thank you very much for deciding to do something proactive and positive. So thank you. Did you make the motion? Did I get a second?
I'll second.
Any questions?
Yeah, I read this several times and I just don't know exactly what it's saying. Is it saying that, it says to respectfully implore the citizens to respect our neighbors' rights and the rule of law? Is it saying no fireworks? I'm just curious about
I don't
what it's
think we
actually
can, I
saying.
don't think we can do a no fireworks with a resolution. I think that'd have to be an ordinance, wouldn't it?
Oh, okay.
So I think
I
this
don't know.
resolution is more to say that we as a county council wish that the fire bans and what is being requested is respected. How I read it.
So, but that last whereas says
Let me s-
Moab City, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh,
Mary.
no, go ahead. You didn't. I was done.
That last whereas says Moab City adopted resolution on June 12th imposing a temporary ban on the discharge of fireworks within the city. Can we not do that same thing with the resolution? Imposing a temporary ban? I mean, I guess that's what I was looking for in the resolution, but if it's not possible to go that far, that's fine.
We could add that.
If I could address that, the unincorporated private lands are already covered with all kinds of fire restrictions. I mean, you can't even do charcoal right now, and that's in the fire packet that was part of Thompson's meeting. That is for unincorporated private lands in Grand County, in addition to public lands of the various partners, BLM, state lands, Forest Service. I can't even think of all of them. If you read that fire order, you'll see.
Yeah,
actually,
fire order, it says.
well, in fact, it is repeated in this. It's the second whereas.
So as a property owner in Grant County, I can't do fireworks. Okay. I hope the whole county will.
Well, just that you're under fire restrictions that are, that are.
Okay.
That's part of the fire restrictions, no fireworks.
Okay.
Now that's
You can't
effective.
even weld.
I hope there's a really good PR campaign going to make sure it's that.
Well, yeah, and we've got a press here, so hopefully they'll extend that message.
Okay.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Rudy.
All right. Call for a vote.
Call for a vote. All in favor of the resolution? Thank you. Passes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
6-5. And thank you, Mark.
My pleasure.
Consent agendas, and we have a lot. Yes.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, item U, ratifying the chair's signature on an assignment of contract for indigent defense services to Aaron P. Wise, PLLC from Torgerson Law Offices, PC. Item V, ratifying the chair's signature on assignment of parental defender agreement to Fitzgerald Law Offices, LLC from Torgerson Law Offices, PC. Item W, ratifying the chair's signature on letters sent to the Governor's Office of Economic Development to support Grand County's fiscal year 2019 business expansion and retention BEAR grant application. Item X, approving proposed contract amendment number 3 between the State of Utah Administrative Office of the Courts and Grand County for bailiff and security services for July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Item Y, approving application for retail beer license for Sun TRS Archview LLC, an RV resort and campground located at 13701 North Highway 191. Item Z, approving proposed letter to all tenants of Kenyon Lansfield Airport regarding security breach issues. Item AA, approving proposed data release agreement associated with the Tamarisk Leaf Beetle project with identified users from the University of Denver for upload to the Dryad Data Repository, datadryad.org, as a requirement for publication in Biological Invasions. Item BB, approving 2018-2019 Utah Retirement System contribution rates. Item CC, declaration of surplus of runway signs from Kenyon Lansfield Airport. Move to adopt the consent agenda as presented and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Does anyone want to pull anything out? Did you?
No, I just have a question.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Seconded, motion by Curtis Wells, seconded by Jaylen Hawk. Questions?
On the retirement figures, Diana, are those per month? It's on page 161 of the packet.
Percentages based on salary.
Okay, but so when it says, for instance, in the tier 1 DB system, it looks,
That's a percentage.
that's a percentage, rate, okay,
And those rates are set by the legislature, so.
okay, thank you. Thanks, I should have read it more closely.
Call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? Consent agenda? Passes 6-0. Calendar items.
Okay, well, Bryony's out sick today, and let's see if I can do this the way she does. First big news, of course, is our primary election date coming up June 26th. The next day, as we talked about earlier, is the Colorado and Green Rivers Stakeholder Workshop at the library at 5 o'clock on the 27th. The 28th, you have Canyon Country Partnership in either Huntington or Castledale. I believe at 1:30, so that's 9 in the morning. 1:30 on the 28th. I believe, Curtis, you had signed up to be attending the Performance Review Committee for exemplary presentations, is that right?
Yeah, what's the date of that one?
The 28th, next Thursday.
Yep.
At 1:30. Okay, here in the chambers.
I'll be there.
Great, thank you. And that's what I have for June. The rest of June. July, of course, we got our Independence Day holiday coming up. County offices closed that day, as well as Pioneer Day on the 24th. The National Association of Conference, National Association of Counties Conference on the 13th through the 16th in Nashville for July. And let's see. I'm sneaking into August a little bit. On August 2nd, there's a municipal conference that Zions Bank hosts each year. You should have received some emails about that.
This Pioneer Day, 24th.
Okay, yep, it's the 24th. And I think that's all I was going to point out. Budget Advisory Board, by the way, has been on hold just because the board feels they're pretty well caught up until preparation again for budget workshops. So they're not meeting weekly, and we're having to do a cancellation notice each week because they're scheduled weekly. So July 18th, they'll start back up again. And then we'll be meeting for a good while, probably till Thanksgiving or so.
When do you think the budget meetings will begin? You're on that, Jaden.
What's the question?
When will the council be meeting to start the budget process, do you think?
Chris Lee?
I can answer. So the county council won't go through the budget process the way that you did in the past unless you direct the board otherwise. They're under the impression that they're to go through that budget advisory board process, go through all the minutiae and all that, and then toward the end, I think maybe during the month of October, allow the council, how many ever meetings you all need to kind of get the skinny on it all. Is that your understanding? Yeah. So if that meets with your approval, that's how the budget board plans to.
Does that work for everyone?
To not have weekly meetings?
So August 1st would be the first, actually July 25th, I think we're going to do the budget for the clerk auditor's office and sort of as a dry run for the new budget advisory board members to get a handle on how this goes and then just continue on. And so the department heads and elected officials are aware of the schedule. Yeah. Anything else for July from anyone? And then there's...
Yeah. On the 3rd, the first meeting in July, the 3rd, we include the counts of the election at the beginning of that agenda.
Good idea.
Canvas of the election, yeah, on the...
So make that a 4 o'clock and then 4 or 5 or whatever. Yeah.
Diana, what's the last day people can get their ballots in?
The day of the election, and we're open until 8 p.m.
And what it has to...
That's 20, sorry, Mary.
26th.
The 26th is off.
Does it have to...
Or they can mail them Monday, if they're postmarked Monday. We'll receive them up until the 30th.
So they have to be postmarked on the 25th, but they can bring them in on the 26th. So they have a week.
I also want you all to know that special events coming up. Or wait a minute, they're already done. June is done and July is nothing. Too hot. Employment opportunities. We have county attorney prosecutorial assistant still. That closes June 29th. The EMT basic closes July 31st. EMP should be, anyway, paramedic part-time closes July 31st. Facilities maintenance technician closes June 29th. Sheriff's Office assistant food service manager in the jail closes July 31st. Corrections officer for the sheriff's, July 31st is the close date. Patrol deputy closes July 31st. Communications and dispatch for the sheriff's office closes July 31st. Noxious weed control technician closes July 6th. The council should know that our full-time position has moved, has resigned, as well as our seasonal. So our weed supervisor is all alone right now in his department. I've not seen that in 10 years. But this is what we have going on. Even by bringing the rates up, even by bringing the minimum wage up, this is just what it is. Old Spanish Trail Arena is still looking for the maintenance technician, so we don't have anyone on the ball fields. I mean, they're scrambling. And we are seeing results of trees and water not doing so well out there. In addition to, of course, the restrictions from Ken's Lake. And we lost our water lease. So we've got some urgency out there.
Watering like during the day.
It just evaporates.
Yep.
And there's a couple more if I could just real quick. Our technical inspector and UMTRA liaison is resigning. I'm retiring, excuse me. That position closes July 31st. We do have a candidate, maybe was interviewed today, right? Or tomorrow? Oh, okay, coming up this week. There's also the weed technician grant-funded seasonal I mentioned that is being advertised. And then our planning and zoning administrator, we are currently interviewing as well, although that one is already closed. So that's what we have for job openings. Madam Chair, were you trying to say something?
I was saying the cemetery, you heard what the solid waste has had to do because we cannot, we've raised ours. At the cemetery, they've raised their pay quite a bit, significantly, and they finally just decided to do the summer. They usually have 2 part-time summer employees to keep up with the intensity of the summer. They've decided to just keep the one that they hired because no one else is applying. So it's all over town. Getting employees is real hard. Okay. We are at the end of this section of our agenda. Are any of the public hearings, they're advertised for 6 or later, so we can't move forward.
Well, so let me ask about that. Zachariah, we may have placed this public hearing in the wrong place. We placed it at 6 o'clock or later, the one that you will be presenting? But it was advertised for 4 o'clock, right?
For the rezone?
Rezone, uh-huh.
Well, I don't remember what was advertised in the paper, but I was with the applicant just now in the hallway and instructed her to come back at 6:15.
Okay.
Because I assumed that it could not be modified, given the way that it's presented on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's presented as 6 p.m. or later. I don't think we can change it.
And normally I would say, let's go ahead and do it now, get it done, but I just spoke with the applicant. I can call and see if she can get back here before 5:30.
Is it on the zoning?
It's on the rezone.
I think we should save it. I think rezones are pretty touchy. Don't you agree? Rezones are usually pretty touchy, and that could be somebody wanting to come, and if they saw the 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
5:30, we got through that. I was getting nervous because I looked at the clock and thought it was, when I saw almost 4:30, I was thinking it's almost 5:30, so. I entertain a motion to take a recess until 5:30. Is that what we would do?
Yes, that would be what we would do. And the only other would be you could have the closed sessions if we could get our people here, but we can't do that. We have a firm coming, so a recess is in order.
Entertain motion for a recess?
Make a motion to recess. I'll second, but just a brief discussion. So our public hearings are scheduled to take place after the joint meeting. Am I understanding that?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will be later than probably 6:15.
I told her to come at 6:15 just to be certain, and indicated that like would be closer to 6:30.
Wow. Okay.
So you got a motion?
Recess.
We have a motion recess. All in favor?
That one's always easy. That one's always easy.
Yeah, adjourning and recesses are always.
So let's see, Greg was missing, so that was 5-0, right?
All right. Serves him.
So, what was I gonna say? So are these off now?
I assume till 5:30.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, and we'll be meeting at the tables down here for the joint city council. Correct? What? Oh, I know it'd been nice to do the public hearings and be done afterwards, but then we have that closed sessions too.
So we're not doing anything?
We're recessed. We can't because the parties aren't together.
For another 30 minutes, huh? Good, how you doing? Been reading about new coach. He's putting them, he's getting them the boys. They're kind of a dark horse. This wasn't his first. He's making them, I don't know if he played football in high school. But you know if he screwed up, he had to run. He's making them red. That's what I was reading. Yeah. And then I love the response from one of them. He said, right. That's right, that's what we do. Awesome. Yep. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good, sir. That's right, yes.
I'm sorry, Mary.
But still, I was very lost.